Namaskar and good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me clearly? Okay, thank you. I'm Shruti Argekar, and it's my privilege to welcome you all who have joined us today on MS Streams and YouTube Live. This is the seventh webinar in our series Successful Redevelopment, and it is titled Construction Phase Part 1. With this, we are starting phase 4 of redevelopment process as per our website, in which we will cover quality progress and coordination of construction work. No matter at what stage your project is, you will find each webinar equally useful and informative. We are happy to receive few questions which we will address today. Before we begin, let me quickly run through few slides. Benjamin Franklin had said, "The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten." This is the pertinent quote by Benjamin Franklin, an 18th century American intellectual and a founding father of the US. Franklin had seen life from many angles. Many times in life, we get carried away by a momentary financial benefit and end up compromising on lasting values. This is very relevant to redevelopment projects. A RD project is our golden opportunity to get a new home with best quality and lasting peace of mind. And this is exactly what we should remember for the construction phase. Our speaker will help us to do all this thinking today. I will briefly go through our initiatives in creating awareness. First is Technoesis Redevelopment Help WhatsApp group, which we have 460 members and is still growing strong. In this, there are CHS members, MC members, PMCs, and even developers. This group is used for important announcements, sharing links, asking questions, and conducting polls. So, if you have still not joined, please join at the earliest. We have a YouTube channel with the same name, Technosis Redevelopment Help, on which we are live right now. All our previous videos are available there. So please watch the videos and also subscribe to our channel. Press the bell icon so that you will get notifications when our next video is uploaded. Then, of course, this comprehensive, informative webinar website www.redevelopment.info giving a structured roadmap to redevelopment right from the inception to handover. Many have started using it and we are getting good feedback. But it is also seen that many of you still not registered on the website. Remember, for accessing guide post, you need to have login. So please visit the website and register also. You can also send your questions and doubts by email to redevelopmenthelp@gmail.com. And of course, we are conducting a webinar series, Successful Redevelopment. 6 webinars in this series have already been conducted. Today is the 7th webinar and the 8th one we will be announced soon. So far, we have covered the following subjects in the earlier 6 webinars. First webinar was an overview of redevelopment, and the second we saw how to initiate project and appoint a PMC. In the third, we covered feasibility study and report. In the fourth and fifth, we dealt with tender document, tendering, and selection of developer. In the last, that is sixth webinar, we discussed the pre-construction phase. And now we have reached the construction phase, which is phase 4 as per our website. It is a crucial and long phase as we have already vacated our premises. Mr. Umesh Dhargalkar will take us through this phase with his in-depth knowledge and expertise. Let me introduce our speaker, Mr. Umesh Dhargalkar. Mr. Dhargalkar is the B.Tech Civil and M.Tech Structure from IIT Bombay with 40 years of experience in civil and structural engineering, especially in buildings. Since last 18 years, he's handling redevelopment projects. He has been regularly conducting certified training programs, public seminars, and webinars since last 15 years. And he has imparted more than 30,000 hours of training to more than 2,000 engineers. Mr. Dhargalkar is a recipient of 2 national level awards. One is an innovator and another is a trainer in construction industry. as he has also received CREDA MCHA Ratna Award as Master in Redevelopment in the last month. Over to Mr. Umesh Dhargalkar.
Namaskar and very good morning to all of you. We are now at that stage of the project where our project is actually going to take a real shape, a shape in concrete and steel, a shape of a building with our houses in it, wherein we are going to move after the project is completed. Well, so far what we have done is that we have gone through a stage of formulation when we went from phase one to phase two to phase three, which are the formation phases, stages of any project. And right now, we will be entering the construction phase. So far, what we have done is that we have selected a developer, signed an agreement with him. Now the developer has got our plans approved. Okay. Then thereafter, we have got our flats allotted, signed PAAA agreements, vacated the premises, and handed over our plot to the developer for the construction. Now, from here, what we'll be actually doing is that so far we have spent about 2 years or a little more time than that in the formative stages, and we are now moving into the phase of construction. Now, we really need to remember what Benjamin Franklin said about poor quality. And that's what we have to guard against in this project. But how do we do that? How do we guard against poor quality? How do we guard against delays in the project? The answer, by and large, you can find in the website www.redevelopment.info. And I'll be taking you through that website in this context of the, the construction phase. Now, let's see how to do that. Right, like in all previous webinars, I would first like to put this webinar also in the context of the time frame of the entire project. Okay, this is the slide which I show in every webinar, but for every webinar, the stage at which we are currently in the webinar is shown with red ink and highlights, which is stage 4 here. This slide shows you that we have already gone through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And if you add up the months on your right hand side, you will see that you have almost completed 2 years in the formative stage. And we are now diving into the construction phase, which could be typically it is considered as 30 to 36 months. Obviously, if the project is very small, then the construction phase can also be 21 months, 24 months, 30 months, 36 months, depending on the size of the project. And the project is, if it is very large, then the construction phase can also be bigger than 36 months. So with that and background, let us move over to the broad contents of today's, that is 7th webinar. So in this, we will first see the salient features of this phase. How is this phase different from the earlier phases? Okay. Then we will see the roles of the developer, PMC, and society who will be working as a team. We are not against each other here. Okay. Developer, PMC, and society will be working as a team under the conditions which have been fully agreed and with reference to the plans which have been approved to construct the building. Now, when these three different agencies, developer, PMC, and society, they work together, there have to be some working systems and reference documents, right? Because three different agencies are working together. So there have to be some certain systems which have been agreed by all the three parties and some reference documents, drawings, etc., which based on which the building is going to be constructed. So we'll see about them. Then we will see the we see the functions of the developer, PMC, and the society. Unlike the previous three phases, the previous three phases, were quite sequential. Someone doing some work, then the developer coming in, and like that, like that. No, society starting the project, then the PMC coming in, then the tender happening, then the developer getting selected, then the developer coming in, then the development agreement happening, approvals, etc. So it was, kind of by and large sequential. Here, the inputs from developer, PMC, and society in those, say, let's say 36 months are going to be, at the same time, because all three have to work simultaneously for the construction of the project. And of course, there are two issues in any construction project, and redevelopment project is also not an exception, which is the quality of the construction work and the progress monitoring. So these aspects also we will see, and then we'll move over to the demo. All these concepts which I'll be explaining in this webinar, how you can independently do them, understand them, refer to them, and actually implement them using the website www.redevelopment.info. So we'll have a small demo about that. And then through the demo, we will see what are the standards which are given. We'll only list the standards, right? Those standards are already there with you on the website. You can visit them anytime. So in this webinar, we will only see a list of those standards. So that's what we'll be covering in this 7th webinar. Now, let's see what are the salient features of phase 4, which is the construction project. Now, in this webinar, I am talking only about the construction aspect. Of course, there are, if you look at it from the developer's point of view, there are other aspects, there are finance aspects, there are sales aspects, etc. But that's not what we are going to look at. We are only going to look at the construction aspects of the redevelopment project, and that too, the actionable points. Because in the next webinar, which is phase 4, part 2, we will be talking about reports, documentation, etc. So based on what actions are taken in this construction phase, what kind of reports are produced, what kinds of standards are developed, what kind of systems are in place, what kinds of documentation is done. This is what we'll be discussing in phase 4, part 2, which is going to be the next webinar. So this phase covers the period which is from vacating premises up to the completion of the project. I said from vacating premises. Sometimes I have seen that in redevelopment projects, people start counting the time from the commencement certificate, which is actually the construction part. You don't start construction without a commencement certificate. But commencement certificate, getting the commencement certificate is also the responsibility of the developer. So if you are considering a broad time frame, we should take the period from vacating the premises, after which the developer will demolish the building and obtain CC, which will take about 2 months, and then he gets the CC, that's the commencement certificate, and the project goes into the actual construction phase. But we are counting the time from the contractual point of view. We are counting the time frame from the time when you vacate the premises and hand over the plot to the developer for construction. We are talking about approximately 36 months period. What is the nature of this phase? This is the actual construction work as per the DA. Right? Okay. In the earlier phases, the nature of the earlier 3 phases was different. The nature was of kind of, slowly the project is getting defined and then formulated, and then the guard is shifting from society to PMC, PMC to developer, like that. Whereas in this, we will be talking only about construction, all stages of construction as a construction activity. Actions. In this phase, there will be actionable points from all 3 agencies. Now the developer will be responsible for all the construction aspects, the materials, the drawings, the site supervision, the progress, everything about construction, the developer will be responsible. Whereas PMC will be in the phase of monitoring the work which is going on and reporting. PMC will not be actually PM. When I say PMC, I'm talking about society's PMC. The developer may also have his PMC, who may have much bigger responsibility, the actually managing the construction projects. Whereas the society's PMC will be only monitoring what is happening at the site and reporting to the society. And of course, society also has some actions to take in this space, which are interim approvals and decisions. Imagine that a stage comes when you have to select the I say flooring tiles, or say the bathroom fittings, or say electrical accessories and things like that. So certain approvals are required. The developer will show you certain samples and the society has to approve that. So there are certain stages in this redevelopment construction project where society used to come in and give approval for selection of PMC or give some decisions. Okay, or give some decisions during the construction. We will see details about this in later slides. So these are different actions here. Developer's action is this, and the full responsibility is construction. PMC's action is about monitoring the project, and society's responsibility will be to give approvals and decisions. And the reference documents which will be used as basis for construction projects would be development agreement, approved plans, working drawings. When I say working drawings, good for construction type working drawings, BIS codes, and good construction practices. All these things will be treated as the basis for the conduct of this phase of the redevelopment and sensitivity. We have seen that redevelopment project is sensitive as it moves, as it gets formed, and then as it gets executed. We also saw in last webinar that the last phase or the phase 3 was the most sensitive phase of a redevelopment project. Okay, why? Because a lot of things were getting formulated. Okay, the phase 1, that is feasibility, is the least sensitive phase because nothing is really getting formulated. It's only the understanding that is happening between the society and the PMC. Then it goes to stage of tendering, which becomes little more sensitive because important decision making is involved. After you select a developer, then the project becomes even more sensitive because the developer is on board now, and the society and the developer have to formulate the project. And formation is always sensitive in any project. Whereas when it comes to the phase 4, which is construction, what we are going to do here is we are going to construct in accordance with the reference documents here. So this is basically a performance stage. Okay, not much of decision making here. So sensitivity is moderate. It is not as high as it was in the phase 3, but still this project is sensitive for a few more things, like such as the policies. Now, when I say policies for approval, if your project is not fully approved, which it should be ideally, which we discussed in our last webinar, but if your project is not fully approved, TDR is not fully loaded, the project is not fully approved, in that case, and if a certain approvals are to be taken during the construction, then you can imagine that if those approvals have still not been acquired, and if the policy change, the policies for approval, if they change, then naturally it is going to affect our project. And in that sense, this project becomes sensitive to that in that context. Similarly, the many new policies also come into picture. Like say policies during construction, even if your project is approved, okay, still new policies may come into effect, which will be applicable to the construction phase. For example, there's a new policy which is coming in, which mandates every developer to take extra precaution for the pollution aspect of the construction work. Like that, the project can also be sensitive if the cost of construction goes up very significantly. A certain increase in cost is always factored when the project is uh, taken by a developer. But beyond that, if the cost becomes, if certain materials become very expensive, or certain equipment become expensive, or something like that, then the cost can also go up. Then there is a part of sale. You know, every development project, the finances or the commercial aspects of any development project, they are hugely dependent on sale. अगर सेल होता है, फ्लैट बिकता है, तो प्रोजेक्ट सस्टेनेबल होता है. So if the market is not very good and the sale is not happening, then that can also be impact our project, even in construction stage. And of course, certain eventuality which you are not thought of. I can explain one or two which we have seen in one of our projects. You know what? Um, the project was like, the finances were good, everything. The project took shape very nicely, and the project went into construction. Construction में काफी वो आगे तक चला भी गया, and then there was a dispute between the two partners in the partners of the developer company. Now this you know what these were kind of personal issues there, but those such personal issues really impacted that project very significantly. Such is the sensitivity of the project. But these are, you can say, these are some things, the aspects of sensitivity in this project are not very high. They are not very common, not common like the previous three phases. So let us see how we, before we actually go into the construction part of the project, we need to do the initial setup for the project. What is required here, what I'm talking about here is that we have to set up teams, systems, and references based on which the project will the building will be constructed. When I say teams, I am talking about teams of the developer, teams of the PMC, teams of the society. Now, when I'm talking about systems, I'm talking about the systems which have been agreed by all the three parties कि इस सिस्टम से हमको ये काम करना है. Communication system, documentation system, coordination system, we'll see about them, and the references based on which the project will take shape. Now let's say teams. There are three teams, as I said. First team is that of a developer. Okay. Now a developer will typically have a side team which will oversee the construction part of the build. Simultaneously, he will also have a management and coordination team at his office. The job of the management and coordination team is to ensure that all inputs are given to the site so that construction actually happens. It has like the Department of Procurement, Department of Sales, all other departments. Okay. Now the Department of Coordination, which has to coordinate between the consultants and the site. So this is the second team, I would say, for the developer. And the third team is a team of consultants, such as the developers, architect, structural consultant, D.O.Tech consultant, MEP consultants, etc., who release the drawings and decisions and specifications based on which the building is going to be constructed. So this is one developer team who has three individual sub teams, you can say. Then there is the PMC. Now, PMC may have a site team or just a site engineer, one engineer, maybe two engineers if the project is very big. Okay. Now, the job of that site engineer, okay, the role of the site engineer is to carry out inspections, means to inspect the project. They inspect the work which is going on, the construction work which is going on at the site, to capture the data. So what typically, if you go from our perspective, what we do at our site is that our engineer, yeah, wherever there is construction going on, so the construction has certain sequence. Okay, so he will inspect the work at different stages of the sequence of the work and check whether things are going on right. Okay. Simultaneously, what he also does is that he has, we have almost 12 forms in which our engineer will capture data about what is happening at the site. So we at our office, we get all this data about the material coming, the testing, the hindrances, okay? Then the work which has happened at the site, if there are any safety issues. So all that data is captured by our site engineers. That's our site team. Now, to support the site team, okay, there is a monitoring, tracking, data management, reporting team at our office. So what we do here through this team is that this team coordinates with our site engineer and make sure that the site engineer gets all the guidance that he needs to perform his role as a site engineer and to inspect the work which is going on and capture the data um, which is taking place every day at the site. So this is our second office related team. Now there has to be a good coordination between the site team and the office team. Okay. Now third is the society. From the society, of course, there is first team is the managing committee who has all the responsibility. In addition to that, what we have seen is that in some of our projects, there is an advisory or technical committee. Okay, I'm not talking about redevelopment committee here. I'm talking about an advisory or technical committee which is formulated specially for the construction phase. Because during the construction phase, over the 3 years, what can happen is that certain decisions would be required from time to time. Certain small approvals would be required. Or maybe there are certain issues at the site which the PMC is bringing or PMC engineer is bringing to your notice, and some action is required to be taken. Now, for such events, okay, it doesn't make sense to go to the managing committee or to the general body. In such a case, if there are some technical people in the society, okay, they can come forth and tell the managing committee, or managing committee can invite them and tell them, come in and help us out in such issues, okay, which require that the decision should be taken. Of course, the responsibility of the decision will remain with the managing committee, but they can get this technical committee to advise them um, in certain circumstances. Now, when you are doing a project, we have to formulate certain working systems. And these are the working systems which have to be formulated and agreed upon by the developer, by the society, and by the PMC. All of them. Now, where are these systems? How are these systems formulated? Like as a PMC, we have these systems ready with us. What we do is that at the site, right in the beginning, we organize a kickoff meeting, and in that kickoff meeting, there are representatives from the developer, from the society, and from the PMC, and these systems are explained and got approved and minuted in that meeting, so that they become the basis for um, the construction work, supervision or monitoring of the construction work. Now, let's say the first system is the quality control system. Okay. Now, safety also becomes a part of quality control. I'm not going to discuss safety separately, although there is always a safety engineer who should be separate from the quality engineer. But beyond that, we are now in this quality control system. First, when we talk about quality, a lot of people think that quality matlab kya acha material liya to quality ban gaya. It is not so. Quality is a process. It starts with the tender document. Remember, quality is a sequential process. When your building goes through all these processes, then you get good quality. Now, what are those steps? First is the tender stage, wherein we lay down the specifications. After tender में specification ही अच्छा नहीं डाला तो आपको अच्छी quality नहीं मिलेगी. Then next thing is that after the developer selected, then there's a development agreement. So there are specifications have to go into the development agreement. Then the consultant's drawings have to be good. Okay, they have to be good, and they have to be quality drawing, and they should specify quality materials to be used, and they should give detailed specification. Then only we can do good quality construction. Thereafter comes inspection by the consultants and certification from time to time, which is also a part of the quality process. Then, of course, we know good quality material, good quality workmanship, and supervision by the developer side team. Okay, when the project is actually in progress. Testing, mock-ups. When I say mock-up, meaning something which has been created for inspection and approval. जैसे हम बोलते हैं ना, sample plat is a mock. Okay, so mock-ups, when you make mock-ups and get them approved, obviously that's a very good way of quality assurance. Audits, there should be quality audits from time to time, and safety audits also from the developer side team. And all this, actually, all the 3 lines which you see here, okay, the first 3 lines, they are, who is responsible for that? The developer. And simultaneously, when this work is going on, there has to be a monitoring by PMC. Now, how that monitoring will happen, we are going to see in the, that monitoring which we are going to see in the next slides. So we talked about quality. Now let's talk about progress tracking. We are talking about time frame now. Okay. Now in the development agreement, there is certain time frame specified, certain clauses are there when the developer should begin his construction, in how much time he should complete that and all that. Okay. There may be a bar chart also attached to the development agreement. But bar chart alone doesn't help us in tracking the project. What we need is a detailed project schedule from the developer. If you refer to our last webinar on phase 3, you will find that getting the detailed project schedule from the developer is one of the conditions for vacating the premises. We saw a list of conditions which need to be met by the developer before we vacate our premises. Now, one of them is getting a detailed project schedule wherein the developer tells us in a detailed manner कि उसका project का schedule कैसा है, RCC का slab tentatively at what, he knows the time frame. Maybe it is 36 months, maybe it is 30 months, whatever. Okay, so based on that, he can prepare or he should prepare a project schedule and submit to the society or to the PMC, and the PMC will use that to track the project. Now, what I'm talking about is activity-wise tracking. I'm talking about milestone-wise tracking. So activity-wise tracking is very powerful. It really gives you a greater insight into the progress of the work than just a bar chart. Bar chart आपको खाली पता बोलता है अरे ये इस टाइप पे होना चाहिए. Okay. Whereas when I say activity, I'm talking about 200 activities. I'm talking about 300 activities like that. The more in detail the developer prepares the schedule, the more he is in control, and the more and the easier it is for the PMC to track the project. Now, then there is a coordination team. One person from the developer, one person from the society, and one person from the PMC who will be, coming together to form a coordination team. Then communication system. Coordination system. Then we are talking about system. So communication system. Again, there should be nodal points and how the communication should be. Can it be by email? If yes, then copy should be sent to whom? Okay, all those things have to be decided. All these systems have to be formulated in the first kickoff meeting at the site. Then there is a documentation and reporting system mainly by the PMC. How the PMC will document, his observation, like through his site engineer, through his project coordinator, through his, in charge of the project, in the construction project in charge, whatever it is. Okay, so that's a documentation and reporting system by PMC. How will report to the society? So these are the systems which have to be formulated. अगर आप ये सिस्टम फॉर्मुलेट करते हैं तो इस सिस्टम से आपका प्रोजेक्ट पे आपको अपने आप उसकी क्वालिटी कंट्रोल, कोऑर्डिनेशन, कम्युनिकेशन, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन सबके ऊपर everyone will know what his role is and everyone will discharge his role, and then the project will be conducted in a very nice manner. You will get, this is a good way of getting good quality and time-bound progress. Now let's see what the reference documents are. जब ये कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट पे चलेगा तो कौन से बेसिस पे चलेगा, कौन से बेसिस पे? Okay, the biggest, I would say, most important basis would be the development agreement, which um, has different clauses which tell us how the developer should perform during the construction stage. Okay. Now, sometimes there are certain clauses in the tender documents which are enclosed in the DA. So certain quality related points may be in the tender document, certain quality related points may be in the development agreement. And what we do as PMC, well, development agreements, tender documents are bulky documents. So what we do at the beginning of every project, when our project goes for construction, what we do is that we make summary extracts of the points from DA and tender. Okay, मतलब 7-8 पेज का summary होता है जिसमें we get only those points which are relevant to the construction and which become our watch points. Okay, rather than, uh, there's a situation and you start you start searching in the DA. ये किधर है, वो किधर है, वो किधर है. So what are the points in terms of quality control, in terms of the developer's site infrastructure, in terms of progress monitoring, in terms of insurance, in terms of safety, all those things, वो सब हम लोग उसका summary बना के we keep and we refer to the summary. Of course, we can always go back to DA and refer to that as and when there is a need. Now, when we say reference documents, materials के लिए specifications and approved brands होना चाहिए. Okay, which materials have been approved, उसके specifications and approved brands, which become the. Now, where do you find them? You find them in the development agreement. Work and work process specification, मतलब अगर आपका वाटर प्रूफिंग है तो उसका प्रोसेस का स्पेसिफिकेशन क्या है. अगर आपका बेसमेंट का वाटर प्रूफिंग है, ओके, let's say you are using a conventional type waterproofing or a different specialized type waterproofing, what is the process specification? So they also become the reference documents, especially from the quality point of view. Then what are the contractual conditions? बीजी कब रिलीज करना है, कौन से स्टेज पे करना है, इंश्योरेंस कब रिव्यू करना है, इंश्योरेंस में क्या क्या इंश्योरेंस होना चाहिए. These are the reference documents. Now, when I say reference documents, what I'm saying is that these documents have to be kept at the site. These have to be kept at the site. Office में तो सबकी होती है, वो अलग बात है, but they have to be maintained at the site. Then approved plans and building permits. But approved plans जो BMC में से approve होके आए हुए हैं, वो plans. When I say building permits, IOD, CC, ट्री एनओसी, जो भी आपके बिल्डिंग के रिलेटेड permits है, they should also be maintained at the site. Then the consultant's input. So when the project begins and during the progress of construction, your consultants who are architects, structural consultants, MEP, they'll be releasing working drawings. Now these drawings have to be good for construction. You don't, of course, the construction should not be allowed to happen on sketchy drawings, incomplete drawings, unsigned drawings, advanced copies. They should only be good for construction working drawings based on which the construction should be undertaken, and they also become reference documents. And of course, when the consultant also gives their drawings, they also have their own work specifications and process specifications. Okay, so all these reference documents have to be maintained at the site. Now, beyond that, also there are quality and safety manuals. If you are working with a quality conscious developer, okay, then in all probability he will have his quality manual. अब वो quality manual follow करता है कि नहीं वो PMC को देखना ही है, पर उसका manual होता है. So that manual also becomes a reference. Safety manual वो तो होता ही है. And codes of practice for construction. If you're the RCC construction, obviously I don't need to really tell you. I'm not talking about design codes. I'm talking about codes like say IS 456 or code for bargaining schedule. Such codes are also water codes for waterproofing. Piling हो रहा है तो piling के codes. And detailed project schedule which I talked about and milestones. These are going to be the reference document based on which you are going to supervise or monitor the construction project for its quality, progress, and adherence to the contractual conditions. Now let's say construction operations, functions of developer society and PMC. Now, before going into this, uh, let me once again say this, that all the three people, developer society and PMC, they are simultaneously working on the project. ऐसा नहीं है कि डेवलपर कुछ करके जाता है, then the society comes, or then the PMC, ऐसा नहीं है. So the same thing is being constructed. The developer is constructing it, the PMC is monitoring it, and society is giving the inputs to it. So the inputs for everything. So when I in this particular phase, I cannot. I will need to, for you people to appreciate कि हर agency का role क्या है. What I have done is that I have identified the role of developers, the role of society, or the role of PMC separately. Now let's jump into that. What are the developers' function during construction project? Number one, further approvals. Okay. Now, what I mean by further approval, अगर आपका project you have gone for construction, but you have not loaded the full TDR, some approvals are still pending from the approving authorities such as BMC or MADA or SRA. Okay, then those approvals have to come during as and when required during the construction of the project. Now, one classic example of an approval which will always be required and in case of further approval is a commencement certificate. वो ऐसा होता है कि आप वेकेट तो कर दिए, वेकेट करने के बाद when the building will be demolished, then only you will get a commencement certificate. And in that sense, it is one approval which will come after your vacate. But beyond that also, if you have not loaded the full or say total business potential, entire business potential which we talked about last webinar, आपने पूरा TDR load नहीं किया है, but you have developed, so let's say what is called a minimum development potential, a minimum FSI potential, then further approvals will also have to come as and when required during the construction of the construction phase. Then inputs, developer has to give the inputs to the site. We saw that there is a team, the coordination team, which is sitting in developer's office. Okay, and the developer also has a team of consultants. So what is required is that what happens at the site is the implementation part, the execution part, the construction part. तो construction के लिए जो inputs है, what are the inputs for construction? एक तो drawings होनी चाहिए कि जिससे basis पे construction हो. Then to construct you need the materials, then say labor, okay. Then the funds to pay the contractor's bills. Now you might have noticed that यहाँ पे कहीं भी मैं contractor का नाम नहीं ले रहा हूँ, because the primary responsibility in a redevelopment project for the construction part or for anything is that of a developer. Of course, the developer will have his contractors. I know that in all our projects, every developer has a contractor. Sometimes they may have a labor contractor, sometimes they may have a contractor which are given turnkey jobs. Okay, but then in that case, the contractors' teams have to be considered and treated as developers' team, because as far as the project is concerned, they do not have a separate identity except being the agencies of the developer. Now, supervision and coordination. So what developers function during construction is to actually construct with proper supervision and coordination. So whatever is being constructed, okay, there should be material to construct that, which is the developer's responsibility. There should be the labor to construct that, again the developer's responsibility. फिर वो plywood होने दो, shuttering होने दो, equipment होने दो, all that is developer's responsibility. Simultaneously, getting the drawings from the developer is a developer's responsibility. Developer will also be responsible for the contractor's work, the materials which are supplied by his vendors, equipment supplied by the vendors, सब बन जाता है developer का responsibility. Okay. Now in consultants also, the consultants will give the drawings, And they will also have to make visits to the site, supervise the work from time to time, check the work, I would say, from time to time. And as and when a certain stage is reached, they have to certify that work. They are called quality certifications. Then now we just mentioned about quality. Let's see what quality really means in a redevelopment project. We talked about it a little while ago, but in quality, the materials, labor, etc., has come in the second line. So in this quality stage, we will talk about testing. मतलब मटेरियल का टेस्टिंग होना चाहिए, काम का इंस्पेक्शन होना चाहिए, प्रोसेस का इंस्पेक्शन. हाउ इज प्रोसेस इंस्पेक्शन डिफरेंट फ्रॉम वर्क इंस्पेक्शन? Process meaning certainly, like say, take the case of waterproofing, which is done in multiple stages. Waterproofing itself is a process. Okay. So at every process, okay, if it's a process-based construction, then for every process, after every process has been completed, maybe some testing is required, maybe some certification is required, maybe some rectification of defects is required. Okay, so this is what has to be the developer's function through his site team. Then of course safety. Safety में क्या आ जाता है? Providing safety gear, providing safety nets, providing safe access to their workers. Safe access is very, very important. Then safety audits, and of course insurance, which is actually not part of safety, but insurance is related to safety. If something goes wrong, obviously there's an accident and anything, then you must have an insurance cover which is live at um, at all, I would say, throughout the tenure of the construction phase. Then maintain registers and records. Cube register, hindrance register, then drawing issue register, records, then test registers, testing of steel, etc. Records, other records about, the daily, say, weekly progress reports, and then inspection reports, checklists. These are the things. Now, what you can see here is that in the for some of these lines here, like say the first one, there's an R there. Now, as I said as I say in every webinar, this R means a record and which has a reference to the website. This is mentioned as a record. Okay, approval जब भी आ जाता है record बन जाता है. Quality में आप देखेंगे serial number 4. These are records also, as well as GP means a guide post, which you can find in our website www.redevelopment.info, which tell you how to do certain things, and which are based on the standards and systems which we at Technoesis have developed over a long period of time. So R for record, GP for guidepost. Guidepost is kind of ready-made advice which you can take and then adopt it to your project and get going. Then there is contractual obligations. So during the construction, there may be some contractual obligations which are specified in the development agreement, and the developer will be responsible for that. For example, if the society has some commercial premises, like say shops, existing shops, okay, then if the contract says, or if the DA says that they should be given possession earlier, like say maybe in 18 months and not in 36 months, then that becomes a contractual obligation. Then there can be many such obligations, rental payments, etc., which have to be made during construction. If there's a corpus payment, so it could be payouts, could be the obligations. And statutory requirement. Developer is automatically bound by the statutory requirements of all the agencies, of all local wards and everything, all statutory offices. Okay, like say health office, which will come and do the fumigation, and the labor office. Such requirements also have to be fulfilled by the developer. And then progress report to PMC. You can say PMC or to the society. Developer, in our tender, in our TA, in all our projects, we have a provision that the developer gives us progress reports every month. Sometimes if it is um, a tricky project, then what we say is that for a period up to, say, coming up to plinth, if it's a basement, if basement is being constructed, then sometimes we ask for weekly progress report up to the stage of the plinth, up to the stage when the construction comes up to the ground floor, and then thereafter we can take a monthly progress report or something like that. So these are basically the construction, the functions of developer in the construction project, in a redevelopment project when it goes for at the stage of construction. Now PMC's functions. Now we have to understand what is meant by project monitoring. क्योंकि PMC को ऐसा समझा देता है कि project management consultant. Can you imagine a PMC appointed by a society managing a project? ऐसा कभी होता नहीं. Project manage करना है developer. When I say managing a project, what is meant by that is that to produce a certain amount of output by utilizing certain resources in a certain time, okay, and then being responsible or say being accountable for the project. This is what is called a project management, to make things happen. Okay. और अगर किसी डेवलपर ने खुद का PMC रखा, then you can definitely call him a project management consultant, because he will be managing the project on behalf of a developer. And then in that case, that PMC may have, 8 people. Like, many years ago, we did an actual project management assignment wherein I had almost 9 people at the site, 8 to 9 people. So we did everything. We actually managed the project. Billing भी आ गया, procurement आ गया, quality control आ गया, everything almost. Scheduling आ गया, reporting आ गया, okay, सब कुछ. So that we used to work did for a developer many years ago, and that you can call as management. But in the context of a redevelopment project, when a PMC has been appointed by the society, and उसका साइड पे केवल एक ही इंजीनियर, हमारा तो एक होता है, तो बहुत सारे PMC को तो इंजीनियर भी साइड पे नहीं होते. So I don't really know how they monitor the project. System anyway, we better not talk about that. So what I take as PMC, it stands for Project Monitoring Consultant. Okay, and his job is to monitor what is happening at the site on the basis of what we saw, those reference documents, through the systems which we identified, through the teams which we identified, and in with reference to the development agreement. So this is how we have to monitor the project. Now, what is the monitoring system for a PMC? I will tell you about our system, and I believe this is the minimum everyone should do if you really want to have a good control on the site. So we are talking about, in our monitoring system, first, someone who's at the site engineer. Typically, we have one engineer at the site, but there can be, if there's a much bigger project which requires 2 engineers, then we can have 2 engineers, but then accordingly we will quote our fees for all the project. So there's one site engineer. His job, as I explained to you, is time to time inspections. So we have our own office systems. He is fully trained in that, and he inspects the works which are going on at different stages or at different locations in the site. And अगर उसमें कुछ है तो he marks and he brings this to the notice of the project in charge at the site. Or throughout the day when he's at the site. Okay, he keeps track of which भाई कौन सा मटेरियल साइट पे आया, आ गया तो फिर वो टेस्टिंग को कब जाना चाहिए, कौन सा मटेरियल टेस्टिंग को गया, so far as material is concerned. Okay, then what is the stage, क्यूरिंग कहाँ पे चालू हुआ, and क्यूरिंग उसका कितने दिन में होना चाहिए. So this is the data. Okay, now is the insurance policy live और उसको उसका वैलिडिटी खत्म हो गया है, so that also has to be kept track of. So there is a lot of data which is to be captured at the site. Which work is happening, which queues have been cast, from where they have been cast, which RMC has been ordered. वो सब है ना, वो सब data जो है उसका record he keeps, and at the same time he carries out those time to time inspections. Now when he is doing this work at the site, simultaneously, or I'll not say simultaneously, once a week, our project coordinator visits the site, and his job is to internally coordinate with our engineer and support him. उसको एक हफ्ते में, if he goes for every week, in the last week, what are the things which happened, what is the data capture, what are the issues which he noticed, वो सब देख के he can address those issues, or he can bring them to our office so that they can be raised to the next level. So that is the job of the project coordinator. It's basically an internal coordination for our office and our site engineer, so that our site engineer is in a position to perform and do his job well with the assistance which he gets from the project coordinator. So this is done typically once a week. Then there are project review meetings, PRMs we call them. Every month we organize at the site a project review meeting. Now, who attends this meeting? The developers, senior executive, someone who's not at the site. क्योंकि साइट में जो लोग रहते हैं ना, उनमें थोड़ा वो they sometimes become oblivious of things which are now happening around them. So what is required is someone, as I talked about, the developer site team which is sitting at his office. Like that, the PMC's I'm not sorry, not site team, office team. Like that, the PMC's office team. So senior people from the developer's office, senior people from the developer, so PMC's office, and the society's managing committee. इनके साथ में ये मीटिंग होती है. Okay, managing committee, developers, senior meaning at least one project manager level, the top level. Okay, but who's aware of the construction activity, who's aware of the project. So this is the meeting which is conducted every month, wherein what is discussed is काम क्या हो रहा है, टाइम फ्रेम, क्वालिटी के कुछ इश्यूज है, तो अगर कोई डिसीजन चाहिए सोसाइटी से जो नहीं मिला है या समथिंग लाइक दैट, और if the developer has some issues, the developer is also in the same team. We are all one team whose aim is to do a good quality work in time bound and a time bound work. So if the developer has some issues, if the developer is facing certain problems, they can also be discussed. The relevant development agreement terms can be discussed at that particular time. Okay, so this is the discussion which happens, and after which the PMC prepares a minutes of meeting. So you can see here the data which is getting created here is the site engineer is getting the data which is capturing the data. Then during the site visit, our project coordinator writes a site visit report. So that data also record it we get. Okay, and then the project review meeting, when it happens, then the minutes of meeting. You can see here for point number 2, the first minus bullet, it says site engineer, and then there is GP. GP means guide post. तो गाइड पोस्ट में आपको डेवलप सोसाइटी के गाइड पोस्ट में आप जाएंगे तो आपको ये देखने को मिलेगा कि what kind of data you should capture, what you should inspect. So guide posts are there for all the PMC things here. Site visit भी कैसा लिखना है, रिपोर्ट कैसा लिखना चाहिए, फिर मीटिंग में क्या क्या कवर करना चाहिए, that has been given on the website. You can refer to the guide post. Then the quality, PMC job is also the quality, but inspections, ordering, testing, keeping track of the test reports, recording defects, ordering rectification of the defects, and recording certifications of the developers consultants. तो डेवलपर आके डेवलपर का कंसल्टेंट आके पर्टिकुलर कुछ चेक करके गया, सर्टिफाई करके गया कि मे बी 6 slab I have checked and it may be cast. So that becomes a certification. The record of that certification also has to be maintained by the PMC. Then the progress, we have to, monitor the progress on the basis of the project schedule. So which activities are running now? Okay. Now, for each activity, what was the scheduled date of start and scheduled date of completion? What is the actual date of start, actual date of completion? Which are the activities which were supposed to have started in this period, but they have not started? Why have they not started? Where is the delay occurring? Which particular activity is causing the delay? Okay. So these are the things which can be looked into if you have a proper project schedule from the developer. Then PMC's job is also to assist the society in approval of materials. कोई चलो एक बात है, समझो कि एक particular material has been specified in the development agreement. But let's say the material is not available in the market. तो क्या करें? Okay. Now a new material is required to be ordered. Now who advises society? तो builder, ऐसा नहीं कि builder कुछ भी material लाके वहां डाले. So a PMC in such a case may tell the developer, okay, which is the other material which you would like to use here? Give us their specifications, here's their test results, give us all the technical data, and based on that, the PMC can make a recommendation to the society. चलो इसको approve करते हैं या नहीं करते? Approval for materials, fittings, let's say, okay, fittings and fixtures, tiles, plumbing materials, electrical materials, water pumps, lifts, parking systems. Okay. So assisting the society in approving them, then assisting the society in certain deviation or contractual provisions. अगर developer ने कुछ deviation किया हुआ है, तो why the deviation has happened? Like say, I give you an example. Okay. When I say deviation, I am saying deviation as compared with the contractual terms. Okay. For example, I said, okay, एक particular brand का हमने बोला कि switches होना चाहिए, but हमको बाद में लगा, like developer is saying कि no, I would rather recommend these brands of electrical switches, which are different from what was specified in the tender or in the TA specification. But it's possible that those switches, okay, are better than what was specified, or a material which is not available in the market, and another material, okay, is to be used. You have liked the tile, you have liked the flooring tile, but the brand is not specified in the development agreement. So as far as development agreement is considered, it is a kind of a deviation. आप वो brand से नहीं जा रहे, but you have liked that tile, and that also is coming from a good manufacturer. So PMC can help the society in negotiating with the deviations and advising the society whether certain deviation can be accepted or it is not to be accepted as compared with the contractual version. Now, what are the records which PMC gives? Site visit report, minutes of meeting, and what I call as progress report, monthly progress report. Okay, what we call as progress review report. So these are the three records which the PMC gives. Now, what goes into that? You have got here record and GP indexes, which you can go and check on the website. Now, what are society's functions? Abhi society ka na is, see, main driver is the developer. So PMC is the monitor. Now, society's role in construction project is, in association with the PMC. So what are the functions of the society? Attend monthly joint progress review meetings, okay, through their managing committee or, say, advisory committee or technical committee. ये तो करना है, क्योंकि without that you will not know. You will need to share information is about the progress of the work with your members in terms of transparency. तो आपको ये पता होना चाहिए. So one, they should attend 1 month, one meeting every month and keep stock of what is happening at the site. Then act on issues in weekly site visit reports and monthly project review reports from PMC. अगर PMC ने कुछ बताया आपको कि ये चलो ये particular that the developer has delayed this project, this particular activity by say maybe 4 weeks. So he has pointed out, okay, or there is a quality deviation, there is some failure, or there is some rectification required, but the developer is not taking up the rectification. The PMC has pointed out to him, maybe उसके बाद 1 महीना हो गया लेकिन वो कुछ कर नहीं रहा है. So society has to take act on such issues and take it up with the developer कि भाई आप ये क्यों नहीं कर रहे, या ये particular activity delay हो गया, इसको अपन कैसे आप ट्रैक पे लाएंगे. This can be done through correspondence. This can be done through the monthly progress review report, progress review meetings and things like that. But to society is actually, remember, this project is between the society and the developer who was party to the development agreement. Okay, PMC is only the consultant to the society. So if the developer is not listening to the PMC and not rectifying the defects, then it will be the society's job to take it up, perhaps at in a soft manner to begin with, or maybe elevate it to the higher level, go to the higher authority in the developer's office, or whatever is required to be done through correspondence, through emails, and through direct discussions in the progressive meetings. Approve materials which are explained under the advice of the PMC. Amenities. Okay, amenities. Like for example, you are, let's say, there is a fitness center, and the developer has to provide certain equipment, exercise equipment in the fitness center, or let's say lift, an elevator. तो उसका लिफ्ट का वेंडर कौन होना चाहिए? Okay, that approval, or some materials approval, amenities approval I talked about. Mock-up meaning say sample flat. Okay, sample flat बन गया, then it's a mock-up. Mock-up means something कि भाई आप ये इसको approve करो, फिर ऐसा हम सब जगह पे करेंगे. So approval of the mock-up is required. If you do not approve the sample flat, then how is the developer going to progress? Once you approve, he knows exactly कि आपने approve किया, so that will be replicated in the rest of the construction or rest of the building. Now time extension. Now if you genuinely feel, okay, if the project is getting delayed and the developer has requested कि भाई आप हमको ना एक official time extension दो of something like say maybe 3 months. Now the question is, why give the time? What was the reason why, because of which his project got delayed? What were the things which were beyond his reasonable control? ये आपको कौन बताएगा? Okay, और अगर उसने 3 महीने का time extension मांगा है, okay, so then the PMC will ask the developer कि भाई आप आपका hindrance register दिखाओ, कि a register which has a documentation of how you lost time because of maybe heavy rain, because of a local fire at the site, because certain material which was not available, जो भी कुछ है, आप जो आपको दिखाओ, and let us see how many days you have lost. Okay, so it's possible that the developer is asking for an extension of 3 months, but your PMC telling you as by 90 days का extension नहीं दे सकता, he is asking for more. What he actually reasonably lost was only 50 days. So in such a case, the approve that 50 days extension which the PMC has recommended. This is also a society's function. Then timely decisions, कोई नया material है, तो ये सब decisions ना time to time आना चाहिए. Very important. You know, a society cannot say कि अब हम general body के पास जाते हैं, the managing committee cannot say that, unless the issue is that so very important. If the issue is of that nature, where people need to be consulted. Then a quick special body meeting can be invited and the decision can be taken from. But this is not what normally happens. What we are experiencing is that the decisions have to be given ASAP so that they do not affect the course of work of the developer or the contractor. Timely action on defects and deviations, delays and breaches, which I just explained to you. Okay. Then release of security. Okay. So if the society has taken bank guarantee from the developer, and let's say a certain, let's say mm, lien ke stage pay, 25% of the bank guarantee is to be released. Okay. If that is so, then the PMC will write to the societies and certifying कि भैया ये काम हो गया हो. So the lien has been achieved. So you can release that 25%. So release of the security, yeah, as a bank guarantee, all the new security which we are having in number of projects is lien on the sale area. So part of that area, part of the flats can be released. So release of the society is also society's function. Then contractual obligations as per development agreement and contractual correspondence. Remember, the contractual correspondence between society and developer has to be made by the society. I mean, what I mean to say is that वो आपका PMC ये contractual correspondence नहीं करेगा. PMC will write to you, will write to the society, or during the in respect of the construction, the construction work which is happening, if there is something wrong, okay, or some instructions have to be given, some information is to be requested, some document, some drawing is to be requested. Most of correspondence, site-based correspondence, PMC will do. But if there is a contractual correspondence, which concerns a particular contractual provision, that has to be done by the society. It's a good idea to have a regular correspondence and keep things on record because PMC ऐसे भी आपको input दे ही रहा है. So it is better that you put them in a formal manner to the developer from time to time, maybe once a month or as and when required. And of course, there is a transparency. The transparency with the society's member, which can be done if the society has its own website. Through the website, it can be done. हम लोग क्या करते हैं at Technoesis, we have a project tracker system. What we do is that we give a user ID and password to the society's members, and they can see from after they are vacated from anywhere in the world, they can visit our website, log in with the user ID and password, and see the progress of the work, the stage at which the work is there, see the report, see the minutes of meeting, whatever needs to be shared with the developer. So that kind of tracker arrangement can also be done. If required, I know some of my clients, they organize special general body meetings which are online, once in 3 months. That's also a good idea to have good transparency in your project. Now we come to the demo. So I'm opening the website and I'll show you how this page has been represented and structured on the website. And just give me a minute. Okay. So we are now you are looking at the website, and you can see here on the website we are on the left hand side. We have got this phases, feasibility study, tendering, etc. And we are at this stage. We are at the stage of construction. So I'll click on construction, which will take me to the home page of the construction phase. So we are at the home page of the construction phase. You can see here. Okay, this is the construction phase. Now here also you can see you have got the notes here about operating system, which we just discussed, notes about developers function, which we just discussed, notes about societies function here, and of course PMC's functions. Okay, this is just kind of notes which are shown to you on the home page, but the real action happens at the tab which is at the top, which is roadmap. Now, if you see roadmap here, it has got 4 options here, 4 sub tabs: forming systems, developers functions, PMC's functions, and societies functions. The crux of which we have discussed. But let's see how it looks on the website. So I am clicking on the forming systems. So here, when you click on that, you get a roadmap for forming systems. When you can see here that there are action points given, which are what is the step to be taken, by whom, what are the particulars, and whether the step has a milestone attached to it, whether a record gets created at the stage, or whether there's a guidepost available for that. You can see here, prepare site for construction. शुरू में ही जब अपन साइट होती है ना, वो साइट, how to prepare and organize the site and plan the site for construction even before a single activity takes place. So that is planned on a paper or on a drawing board. So and it is then accordingly it is constructed at the site. Okay. So you can see there is a guidepost there. उसमें क्या क्या होना चाहिए, चलो आपको एक दिखा देता हूँ, so that those of you who have not seen or not been on earlier webinar, you'll be able to see what that guidepost is. Guideposts are ready-made. Okay. This requires me to log in. So this website, remember, the entire website you can use without logging in. So entire website you can use without any login. But if you want to use guideposts, then it is required that you log in. Now you can see here checkpoints for क्या क्या करना चाहिए. देखो डेवलपर के साइट प्लान पे के लिए क्या क्या करना है. So all those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these checkpoints have been given. So guideposts are in form of checkpoints. Then okay, then let's go back to okay. So then developer functions. You can see developers functions here in this table, which are almost 20 steps here. Okay. Now the total steps for this phase, or which have been mentioned in this website, are something like 60, which cover all these forming systems, developers functions, PMC's functions, societies functions. In the developers functions also you see here, there are records and guideposts like that. Then just going to the PMC's functions. You see PMC's functions, you can see there are action points here. क्या क्या करना है. there are 19 steps, and of course, society's functions. Society may not have a big role to play. So you can see here, there are 8 steps here. Okay. So this is how the roadmap is outlined here for this space. Now, what are the milestones for this project? So let's have look at the milestones for construction. It starts with construction of plain RCC slab up to members level like that. You know, there are 16 milestones, main milestones. We'll see them separately later in a list. Then what are the records getting created? Now there are different records getting created at different stages. Let's say for PMC's function, what are the records getting created? You can see here site visit reports, project review meetings like that. Okay. Or if you want developers functions, further approvals like that, there are 8 records. Like that, there are records for farming systems, societies functions also, which I'll not go into because I'm only showing them. Now let's see the guideposts. Okay. Guideposts are also given at different stages. Let's say guideposts at the stage of farming systems. You can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 guideposts. You can see the certifications. We talked about quality, right? So list of certifications during construction. Certifications by architect. इतने certificate होने चाहिए architect से 11 तक. Certification by structural consultant. Then certifications by geotechnical consultant, certification by MEP consultant, certification by contracting agency. So these are the certifications which are required if you want to really have good quality in a during a construction project. So guideposts, let's say PMC's functions. Okay, PMC site visit का जो होता है ना, PMC का जो weekly site visit by the project coordinator. What are the things to be seen in that? So you have got this first guidepost, then there is second about site visit report, so many things. So there are 5 guideposts here. So like that, we have guideposts, records we have seen. So this is how what you do here is that you can use this webinar to understand the phase, its internal connectivity, and for actually doing the project. When you come to this stage in your own project, you can refer to this website and use the standards available. So now let me again go back to the website. Okay. I think I can go to this. No? So I was yes. This is the slide at which we were, and then we went to have a demo of the website. Now let's see. I mean the same thing, just a list here for your better understanding. The steps, milestones, and SGMs, and records and guideposts, which we just saw. This is just a list, just to give you a quick summary, okay, of the steps. You can see that as far as steps are concerned, forming systems, there are 12 steps, developers function 20 steps, PMC functions 19 steps, societies function 8 steps. If you add them up, you'll get 60, almost 60. Then you can see here milestones and HGBMs. What you see here, the same milestones which I showed you there are 16. But here just want to, make one point here that, yeah, see number two here, it says RCC slabs also, it says RCC slabs, and number 3 also says RCC slabs. But number 2 is RCC slabs up to existing members, and number 3 is RCC slabs up to terrace slabs. Now take let's say your building is going to be 22-story high, but your existing members flats are only accommodated up to 16 floors. Then the importance of construction of 16 floors is for you is more than the importance of the remaining 6 floors because your flats are identified there. So that is why we have treated that as a different milestones, and the entire RCC work as a different milestone. You can see that for masonry also for serial number 3 and 4. You can see it for doors and windows or say finishing material also. So that is how these milestones have been. The list has been prepared. Then there are records. There are almost how many? 23 records which are created by the developer, by the PNC, by the society. And there are so many, how many? About 12 guideposts. What I will bring your attention to the number 6 here. Of course, there are many. All these guideposts are given on the website, but I'll call your attention to number 6 here, which I mentioned there also, but more particularly on this website, on this slide. You can see here list of certification during consultant. कई बार क्या होता है ना, प्रोजेक्ट हो जाता है और अपने पास उसका सर्टिफिकेशन नहीं रहता है, एंड सर्टिफिकेशंस आर द बिगेस्ट प्रूफ्स ऑफ क्वालिटी. सर्टिफिकेशन बाय आर्किटेक्ट हमने दिखाया था, आर्किटेक्ट से आपको 11 सर्टिफिकेशंस आने चाहिए, राइट फ्रॉम लाइन आउट टू द ओसी. Okay, whereas what you see is that people are more only concentrated on OC आया क्या? Architect का 11 certifications are a point which is missed by many people. Like that, there are certifications by structural consultant for every slab, MEP consultant for every slab, for contracting agencies for, let's say, anti-termite treatment, then waterproofing of terrace, waterproofing of toilets. So whenever each stage has been completed, there is a certification where the developer has to ask a certificate from that consultant कि उसने check किया. And such certifications should become a permanent record for a society even after the project is completed. And we will see about that during the next webinar when we will be discussing the handover part. Certification is a very important piece of handover documents. So with that, I come to the end of this session. So thank you for being with me for, I guess, how much time? 1.5 hours.